Frazier and Maestro Styles, you know we got one. Right back like we left some. We don't duck smoke, we want all of it. So line them up, Trey sharp with the blade, you know we sizing it up. I'm quick to catch the fade, you know Styles making the cut. Cause we coming out clean every time that we showing up.
It's gonna be called the Barbershop.
Yo, what's good, folks? Welcome back. It's a brand new week here at the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. We are streaming live on our Facebook page, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and on Instagram. I'm Trey Frazier, and as you can see, the homie Maestro Styles, he had something to go handle this evening, so he's not going to be with me tonight, but we got a special guest, a special co-host with me this evening. Chrystal Stone, sports anchor at WNYT up in Albany, New York. Chrystal, welcome back to the show. I know it's been a couple of years, but glad to have you back on here this evening. How's everything and what's going on?
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's been a few years, right? So good to see you and reconnect. And, I'm just trying to survive this winter up here in Albany, New York. It snows every other day here. Just trying to get by.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm from New York City originally, born in Queens, raised in Brooklyn. So I know how the weather can be in the city. I know upstate New York, it's a little different, but I know what that New York weather feels like up there. But let's talk a little bit about that because, and I want to congratulate you on getting your MBA. If you got your MBA, right? I want to make sure I got that right.
It's a sports journalism, actually. Yeah.
Masters in sports journalism. Got it. Congrats on, accomplishing that. Because I know the last time we had you on, you were out in Arizona accomplishing that goal while doing some intern work at a sports station down there in Arizona. I believe you covered the Super Bowl that year. It was Chiefs and Eagles that year. I remember that. And so kind of talk to me and the people about what the transition is like from going from Arizona to upstate New York. Like, what is that like? Because I'm always fascinated about sports anchors when they take jobs in different cities and they got to pack their families up, furniture. I don't know if they still have furnished apartments anymore. I don't know what that's like, but kind of talk about that transition and, what that's been like for you. It's two different worlds, Arizona and upstate New York.
Yeah, definitely two different worlds and a huge career shift for me. So my background is in acting. That's what I got my undergraduate degree in from the University of Texas at Austin. And I lived in New York City for a long time doing the whole actor thing.
That's right. You was in Power, right?
Yes, I was.
That's right. Someone Yep.
Saw me, I think on The Equalizer, an old episode of The Equalizer too. But anyway, so I decided to shift gears and come to grad school, Arizona State, did that 2022 to 2023. And from there, the opportunity came to come here to Albany, New York. And I thought it was great because it's only about 2.5 hours from New York City. It was nice. The idea was nice to be close to New York City so I can get back and forth if I need to, because that's kind of where my people are. I'm from Dallas, my family's there, but I've spent so much time in New York City that all my friends and my old apartment is there, all the things are there. So that was nice. The transition was interesting, right? Because like you said, you're born and raised in New York, so you know what the weather patterns are and real winters and all seasons. Whereas in Phoenix, it was like summer every day, all year long. And honestly, it was a great experience because I'm from Dallas and I'm used to sort of that dry heat, as they like to call it. Right. But to experience it on that level, the summer I was there, which was the summer of 2023, it was 19 straight days of 100-degree temperatures, which was insane. And so having to figure out how to navigate that. I have a little dog and having to walk her every day and figuring out what time of the day to take her. That was all really interesting and fun. And then, of course, experiencing covering the Super Bowl, going to Media Week and having that whole experience was so great. And then coming back here to all or coming back here to New York State was a journey. Like, a lot of pre-planning. I had my car shipped here. I came here a couple of weeks before my job actually started last or September 2023. And so I had a little time to look for an apartment and, was on Facebook Marketplace looking up furniture, trying to furnish my apartment here. And the transition wasn't as far as non-work, the transition wasn't as bad just because I left New York to Phoenix and then I went from Phoenix back to New York. So it was kind of coming back home in a way.
Right.
The transition from grad school to professional sports reporter was definitely, a hurdle because you sort of get saddled with a lot of responsibility right away. And the way that the people at my station have described it was that I was literally just thrown into the fire, right? So all of a sudden, I'm carrying the camera around and I'm shooting games, I'm editing everything, I'm writing my own stuff, I'm going on camera, I'm anchoring most nights. And so the transition was challenging, but now I'm about a little over a year and a half in this role, and I've definitely settled in and sort of found a lot of my purpose in this particular role, and it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, that's what's up. Because Albany, New York, you think about places like that, and it's like, gosh, what's up there in Albany, New York? I mean, when I think about the landscape of sports up there, I would imagine it's high school athletics. I would imagine some collegiate, some collegiate sports up there. Lacrosse is a big thing in New York, particularly Long Island, but that's, a different, part of New York. What's it like to cover those sports in comparison to covering a major professional sports team?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. There's so many different sports to cover here in Albany, and that's one of the things that attracted me to this particular job is, sure, I came from Phoenix where there's 5 professional teams, but here you mentioned lacrosse, for example. There's so many other sports that don't get as much coverage nationally. So lacrosse, there's the horse racing that's really big up here in Saratoga, New York. The Belmont Stakes has been out here in Saratoga, New York for a little bit. And then their professional teams, they have a professional lacrosse team, which is huge. The fan base is huge up here. The Albany Firewolves, they have the Firebirds, which is their Arena League football team, huge fan base for that team as well. The colleges, they really care about the colleges, and high school sports is king here. Regardless of what the sport is, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, hockey, really big up here as well. They have a semi-professional hockey team, the Adirondack Thunder. So more than anything, I've gotten the experience of covering sports that I may have never touched had I not come to this particular city. So it's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, that's the one thing when you live in a market like that, it's so much less, pressure on those particular sports teams and those programs. And, like I said before, there's a lot of colleges up there that some of them are D1, but there's also like D2 programs in there as well. Like Iona State, I know is upstate New York. I don't remember what town it's in, but Sienna's up that way as well. So they don't get the coverage like the big cities get or even some of the mid markets get the coverages. So it's an interesting, transition and an interesting, city to, cover sports in. I want to talk about your sports teams for a second, because I imagine, and on the sports podcast here, me and Maestro with our guests, we like to kind of twist the knife a little bit, just a little bit, but not too much. As a Dallas sports fan, and I want the people to know, like you said it in the opening, you're originally from Dallas, so you root for the Dallas sports teams. And it hasn't been a great week for you guys. You lose a franchise player in Luka, and then I have to imagine watching the Super Bowl on Sunday, it was tough for you to watch your division rival host a trophy. Well, what's that been like for you as a sports fan? I know I had to go in already. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Trey, this is probably the worst sports week as a Dallas sports fan I've ever experienced in my entire life. Outside of the Dallas Stars, who are playing well, the hockey team, and the Dallas Wings that made some very interesting trades that can make you excited about this upcoming WNBA season.
And they got the number one pick, right? They got the number one pick, right?
Yeah, have the number one pick. We're most likely going to get Paige Beckers, right?
There you go.
Outside of that, this is the worst week I've ever experienced as a Dallas fan. And when I tell you worst, I put up a video in response to the Luka trade, and I had to kind of play with it and be a little funny with it. But deep down inside, I was nauseous for at least 2 to 3 days after that trade went down. I mean, physically sick. I could not believe it. In complete shock. None of it makes sense, even to this day. Even now that we've seen Luka have his debut with the Lakers and we've seen AD have his debut with the Mavs, still, none of it makes sense. I don't understand. I know we're going to touch on more, but as a whole, I don't get that. And then we look at the Dallas Cowboys. I don't understand what Jerry Jones is doing with this organization for years now. I mean, years. Question his moves. Yeah. But the hiring of Schottenheimer, I think is his last name.
Brian Schottenheimer.
Schottenheimer. I still don't understand it. Like it's like they're saying one thing, but they're doing another. He wants to say he's making risks or he's taking risks, but you went with the company man. You went with the guy who was loyal. None of it makes sense. None of this.
Does it ever with Jerry? It just seems
Jerry
like
never makes sense. Jerry never makes sense. And then to kind of go to the Mavs fans and their reaction to Nico Harrison and the things that we've seen, the death threats and all those things. You haven't seen that with Jerry. Why? Because the fan base is kind of used to Jerry being Jerry and Jerry doing whatever he wants to do, right? And whether or not the moves make sense, he's still I don't know. They don't have the same vitriol that they would have like they're having towards Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison, I don't condone the death threats. Okay, that's going a little too far. We're doing too much.
For sure. You never want to threaten somebody's life over sports. At the end of the day, it's just sports. You know what I'm saying? We can have fun. We can poke a little fun here and there, but when you start talking about threatening somebody's livelihood, you're going too far.
We doing too much, but like the essence of it, I understand. Like I completely understand.
Like the fans bringing the casket to the arena and all that, like for content purposes, like that's fun. Like that's so stuff to see.
And I'm really hating some of the reaction that we're seeing, especially on the mainstream platform, sort of criticizing Mavs fans for how they're responding to this. When even Jason Kidd himself said the fans have a right to be upset. We do have the right to be upset. And I think what people are not understanding is this isn't like any other fan base. We're talking about the Dallas Mavericks who had Dirk Nowitzki for 20 years. And he passes the torch to Luka, and we're expecting Luka, right, to be the man for the next at least 10 plus years. And to kind of get stripped away from the organization in the middle of the night, by the way, right, in this secret backyard, back alley trade, for reasons that still don't make sense. They still don't make sense. At the end of the day, if you just had ego issues with Luka or you had some personal issues with Luka, just say that instead of some of the things that Nico and the governor of the Mavericks, Patrick Dumont, have said over the last few days.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought him up because I was learning some things, as a result of the trade. Because, like you, it broke. It was, what was it, a Saturday? It was a late Saturday night. I'm watching the Knicks game and I'm watching the Lakers destroy my team. And I'm about to just kind of get ready, get set to go, go to sleep and whatnot. And we have a group chat with the fellas. Sometimes they pop some sports news in there every now and then. And I see Luka traded to the Lakers. And I'm like, wait, this can't be real. Popped on Sports Center. And Stephen A., who was at the Knicks game, covering the game, was already on Sports Center talking about the particulars of the trade. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I did some research, And what I didn't know at the time was that Mark Cuban sold the majority stake of the franchise, sold it to the gentleman that you just mentioned. And so I'm like, okay, well, you have that there because Mark Cuban is not doing this. In my opinion, Mark Cuban is not trading Luka Doncic. He's not going to do that.
He literally said that he would rather get a divorce from his wife than trade Luka Doncic. This would never have happened. And he tried to stop the trade after the fact. He didn't realize it until it had already broken. But apparently, according to the reports, he tried to stop this from happening.
Oh, really? Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. And at the end of the day,
he was trying to like talk to Nico and try to get this to pull it back, but it already happened.
Wow. And at the end of the day, Mark can't do much because he's now a minority owner. And, you know, the big guys that's got the majority stake, they call the shots down. So I think about stuff like that. When you transition from ownership to ownership, they have a different way of looking at things. They have a different point of view. Not that you necessarily agree with it, but, you know, these are the kinds of things that happen. And I think
Trey might have some internet issues, but as we're waiting for Trey to come back.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry, folks. You know, good old Xfinity. Yeah, I'm calling Xfinity out. Yeah, it's like those, you know, it's like what's going on in Phoenix with the Suns. It seems to be something different going on with that ownership group. So I understand it from that standpoint, but at the end of the day, generational talent. And look, yes, he would have cost $300 and something million. He would have cost that much money. And look, I don't care if you're drinking beers to celebrate getting to the conference finals or to the finals. I don't care if you overweight or you not, whatever the reports are saying about you. Trey Frazier, I am paying Luka Doncic. I'm giving him that money because I need to put butts in the seats. I need to attract players who want to come play with this guy. I want to be able to be a contender. Hell, team was in the finals. The team was just in the finals. And I think that's what makes it so much worse, is that y'all are in the finals and you do this just months after that. So for me,
can I just read what Nico said? Let me just read two things. Okay. So in his explanation, this is what he said. I say there's levels to it, and there's people who fit the culture, and there's people who come in and add to the culture. And those are two distinct things. And I believe that the people that are coming in are adding to the culture. Coming in, AD and Max Christie.
Right.
Luka Doncic is the culture. He set the culture of the Dallas Mavericks. I should say he reset it after Dirk left. Right. He was the culture. So I don't understand how that's what I'm saying, that this is personal. There's something that's there. And you mentioned it, the drinking of the beers. I'll never forget after the Western Conference Finals when former Dallas Maverick Michael Finley came over and grabbed the beer. Yep. With every superstar, there's things that you kind of have to work with, personality-wise, ego-wise, habit-wise. But he performed year after year. And let's not forget, the first two playoff appearances for Luka, first round exits to the Clippers. Missed the playoffs the year after that, but then gets the Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals and then to the finals. He has a proven track record. It was nowhere to go but up. And before this trade happened, but he got hurt on Christmas Day. Before Christmas Day, the Mavericks were like 14-3 in their previous 17 games. And then he gets hurt. And then, of course, the Mavericks are going to fall off from there. So even just in that example, Luka was doing well. Like, he had the Mavericks looking like a championship contender before he got hurt. And he was about to return back to the court last week. If I'm not, obviously he returned to the Lakers, but he was about to return to the court last week. So I think they pulled the trigger way too early. and at the very least should have seen how this season played out if we're going to just kind of go along their logic about the culture and his work ethic.
And the fit. And I'm going to ask you about Anthony Davis too. And, obviously they call him street clothes for a reason because he's always in street clothes. He's never healthy. And, he has his debut. He has his Mavs debut. And, he gets hurt and he's out, it seems like, for a month, which you're carrying yourself kind of around. March Madness is when he's going to return. And look, I don't know. I think they're still a good team. A finals team with Anthony Davis in the front court and Kyrie running the show. I'm not so sure. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid of what folks on TV have been drinking. Like a finals contender, I'm not so sure. And maybe it's because of Anthony Davis and his injury history, which now you're starting to get a front row seat of. Talk to me about how you think he fits in, the end game, because really this is about getting back to the finals. This is really what this is about. Can AD help you guys get back there? Is he a good fit? Talk to me about it.
Well, he can't help the Dallas Mavericks get to the finals if he's not on the court. And he's going to be missing almost a month. And in that month, the Dallas Mavericks will play 12 games, and they're sitting in 8th place in the Western Conference. Mavericks are sitting in 4th place. So you do the math. No, he's not going to help the Mavericks get to the championship, at least this season, which is another reason why I don't understand Nico's reasoning, because he said he's not thinking about 10 years down the line, right? He said he's thinking about the next 3 to 4 years. Well, show me what you're going to do in 3 to 4 years with a player that's 6 years older than Luka and also has struggled staying healthy. And he did. The poetic justice was literally right on time, right? He has this amazing game, double, 16 rebounds. I think he had 3 blocks, which helped set the franchise record in blocks for a single game for the Dallas Mavericks. So like immediate impact, right? In making everyone think, oh man, Nico, he really made the right decision. Literally hours later, it's reported that he's going to be missing weeks. And that is the point, right? That's why everyone who has the criticism of this trade is that it was that. Right. And if you're going to have an injury prone player, wouldn't you rather have Luka, who's only 25 years old, who's established himself as a generational talent, as a superstar? Wouldn't you rather have him, who has that? Not to say that AD doesn't have any of these things, but who has that dog in him? I will never forget my favorite shot. And he's had so many game winning shots.
Minnesota.
Rudy Gobert. Minnesota. I will never forget that shot for the rest of my life. And every time I think about Luka, I think about that shot and that impact. And not just the
reaction.
Shot,
the reaction. When he was like, yo, you can't hold me. Yeah.
And that's what he brings to a team. And just imagine, I saw in the huddle, the pregame huddle with the Lakers, they told him, don't try to fit in. Look, I just realized, connect what he's saying. Don't try to fit in, just be you. And that's what they're saying. That's a hit to what Nico's saying with the Dallas Mavericks. Don't try to fit in to a culture or whatever. You be the culture. You be yourself. And just wait until Luka finds who he is as a Laker. Just wait. Just wait. And then you trade him. Sorry, I'm going off. But then you trade him to a Western Conference. You trade him to a Western Conference rival who you most likely, if we do get to be a contender, will meet somewhere playoffs. And just imagine what Luka Doncic is going to do to the Dallas Mavericks. Just imagine. That man reportedly had just bought a $15 million house. He was going to be a Dallas Maverick for the rest of his life. He loved being in Dallas. He loved the Dallas community. He loved the Dallas fans. And then you trade him away because
he bought a house, right?
Because he liked food. Are you serious? Okay, I just need to calm down.
This is good. This is great content. This is the reaction that I expect from someone that roots for the Dallas Mavericks. This is exactly what I was hoping.
Trey, I made it through the Sean Bradley years. Not to give away my age, but I made it through the Sean Bradley. You understand? I made it through the rough. I made it through the rough Dirk years. Okay. Dirk Nowitzki
Mm-hmm.
won that championship on my brother's birthday, June 12th, 2001 or 2011. Right. I'll never forget that. And so what Luka gave the Dallas Mavericks was hope every single time he stepped on the court.
Mm-hmm.
If we had Luka, we had a chance. And now
Yeah.
it's sure. I love one of my favorite players on the Mavs outside of the Stars is PJ Washington. I think I love the way he plays. I love his tenacity.
Yeah.
He has the dog in him too. But when Luka stepped on the court, you knew we had a chance. And
Yeah.
now it's like, well, missing AD for a month, 12 games. And if they don't make the play in this season, and the Lakers go on, I mean, they're fourth place already, and the Lakers go on to make a deep playoff run.
Right. You know what's not getting talked about enough? I'm wondering what Klay Thompson is thinking, because he got traded there in hopes that, finals team a year ago, leaving, Golden State, leaving that dynasty to come over to play with Luka, hopefully help contribute to a championship. And just months of him being there, the best player gets traded. And now I'm just wondering what's going through the mind of a Klay Thompson. Do you think he's somebody that's like, okay, maybe I don't want to be here. Maybe I want to take my talent elsewhere. Maybe I'll go, play for the team that my dad, does play-by-play for. Like what do you think is in the mind of a Klay Thompson? Because nobody's really talked about that because it's kind of been swept under the rug.
I would say that and Kyrie. Kyrie was able to sort of reinvent himself in Dallas and be that number two that Luka absolutely needed. And Klay is stepping in as that number three, if you will, right? That other shooter that Dallas absolutely needed. I feel like Klay Thompson, no one on this team can be happy with this. I mean, no one can be happy with this move. And when you're trying to establish yourself in a new town, a new city, a new team that could be a contender, and trying to figure out what your role is on that contender, and then you take away your star player, that has to be hard to navigate and to grapple with. Then you bring in AD, you have this amazing game, and you start to think, okay, maybe this can work out. And then you lose AD for a month. I can imagine the roller coaster that these athletes are going on right now with the Dallas Mavericks. And at the end of the day, they're athletes, right? They are competitors.
Yep.
Like Jason Kidd said, he didn't make this decision. He wasn't a part of this decision, but it is his job to get this team as a contender and get this team to where it wants to be. So they have to show up and do a job every day. But when they go home at night, I am sure that they are still shocked by this decision and figuring out how they move forward as a team.
Yeah, that I feel for a guy like him. And Kyrie, you mentioned Kyrie, and not that I don't feel it's bad for him, but he was a part of the finals team, so at least he's gotten some of what it could possibly be like playing with Luka for years to come. But it sucks. It sucks all the way around. And I'm with you. Why trade him to that team? Like, why? I think more importantly, why not put him on the market? Why not call Boston or call Milwaukee or even the Knicks for that matter? The Knicks the Knicks have done some crazy stuff, during my lifetime as a Knicks fan. But the point is, get compensation for him if this is what you're going to do. This was not the best compensation. No disrespect to Anthony Davis and Max Christie, but this was not and far away not the best compensation for Luka Doncic. You trade him to that team, the team that whether you're a division rival or whether you just hate dynasties, period. You don't like the Lakers. Like, they get everybody. Just when you think the Lakers are going to go down into the doldrums, just when you think they're going to experience that, that rough patch of not being good, voila, They get another superstar.
And why not? Yes, to all of that. And why not, if you're wanting to fix defense, right? Because Nico kept talking about defense. Why not just find a defensive player? Why not find that forward or whatever you're trying to do, moving Gafford to center, whatever you're trying to do? Why not just fill in that gap and fill in that hole instead of trading away? Why was the answer of trading away Luka? That's why this will never make a lot of sense to me, because I mean, did you make the team better? Can't make the team better if the player is not healthy enough to play.
Yeah. Facts.
I'm just so sad. This is like the first time, outside of talking to my brother about it. We're both obviously from Dallas, diehard fans. It's my first time really talking to someone about it, and it feels very therapeutic. Trey, I really appreciate feelings off of my chest.
It might never make sense to you. Years from now, it'll still never make sense.
I watched it last night, and when Luka hit that three, his first three as a Laker, it was like happiness, because it's Luka, and I will always love Luka, but so much like I just sat and just sit in immediately, like, wow, just imagine what he will be able to do with that Lakers team. And I feel like Nico, the Mavs brass, did not give Luka enough of an opportunity to fix whatever this habit, whatever they think this is so bad that he likes to eat and drink, or whatever. Okay,
and I feel like those are things that are fixable. Like I always talk about, me and my show, we talk about this with certain teams, with players. There's just certain things that are fixable or adjustable. Like, that's like, if you're worrying about him not working out much, look, that's something that's fixable. And look, the Pelicans haven't had success with Zion. I know that's the same narrative with him. They haven't necessarily given up on him quite yet, even though there's rumors about that possibly being a thing. But nothing like this. No, I mean, this just came out of nowhere. Caught everybody off guard, man. But I'm glad that I can play the role of psychiatrist here. I'm glad I can play that role for you here. And, like I said, coming from the perspective of the actual fan of the team, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot more genuine and authentic that you put it that way. I want to transition to the Super Bowl. I'm sure you watched the game. And any thoughts of a blowout Super Bowl?
Man, that
was trash. That was trash.
It was a trash Super Bowl. But I, as you know, I work as a sports reporter, anchor, so I had to watch the game and closely and do highlights and whatnot and go on air and do the highlights. And I was like, oh, as a sports anchor, you see a blowout, it's an easy game to write, right? Because you just throw a couple plays. Oh, this happened, and they went on to roll 50-0, whatever. So that was my first thought, like, oh, great, this is going to be an easy game to write. I was incredibly impressed by the Eagles' defense. I mean, the strategy that Vic Fangio put together was just a masterpiece, and the skill and the execution of the players was just beyond.
Didn't have to blitz. Did not have to blitz one bit.
Blitz not once. And, you sacked Mahomes for the record that he's had in a single game 6 times. Didn't even need Saquon Barkley, because I've always said, you stop Saquon Barkley, you have a chance at beating the Eagles. Saquon Barkley put up 57 yards. He didn't even do much. Jalen Hurts, though, set the record for yards by a quarterback in a Super Bowl with 72. It was just fascinating on both sides of the ball what they were able to do, and to see Patrick Mahomes struggle in a way that we really haven't seen him struggle as bad since the Super Bowl that he lost to the Bucks. With the same issue, right? Issue with that offensive line.
Right. Yep.
Same issue, right? Same issue. Same thing that did them in the Super Bowl 50. It was interesting to see that. But at the same time, I've always felt about the Chiefs that they have skirted by all season long. I think 12 of their games they've won by 7 points or less. They've
Yep.
been skirting by all season long with not that great of a roster, and it was only a matter of time. I'm still shocked that they beat the Bills. I'm still shocked that they beat the Bills. I feel
I'm
like
not.
Bills
I'm
Eagles.
not.
I feel like the Bills Eagles would have been a heck of a better game, Super Bowl game.
Yeah,
Because
I
this,
feel like Ravens would have been better too. I'm a Ravens fan, by the
yeah,
way.
true.
So I felt like the Ravens would have gave the Eagles, a more of a competitive game. We did in the regular season. We did play the Eagles late November, right after Thanksgiving. So we lost to them, but I thought if we got there, we had a chance of making it a game with them. But you're right about Jalen Hurts. There was a lot of misconception about Jalen Hurts, which I don't quite get because he did this just 2 years ago in the same moment, in the same spot. So, you get Saquon Barkley, you get a generational running back. Yeah, there's no need for you to be Superman at quarterback. There's no need for that when the guy is ripping off 60+ yard touchdowns, every game. So, I didn't get what that was about. I thought Jalen Hurts stole the Super Bowl MVP from Josh Sweat because Josh Sweat was having himself a game in that first half. I think he had 2.5 sacks. I think he hit Mahomes like 3 times in that game. To me, he was at halftime. I thought, ooh, somebody on defense is going to get this MVP. And it looked like Josh Sweat was going to be the dude. And then Jalen Hurts came along and said, nah, I'm just going to throw this bomb to Devontae Smith for a touchdown. I'm going to run for 72 yards, or 6.5 yards a pop. I'm going to throw, 22 passes. He only had 22 passes, 200 and something yards throwing, but he had the 70 yards rushing to add with that. And it's like, okay, you know what? He's going to make himself, yeah.
Not to mention 77% completion percentage, and that's the 4th highest in Super Bowl history. So yeah, Hurts did not play like Superman in the Super Bowl, but when he had the ball, he was accurate and he did what he needed to do. And that offensive line helped out a lot because every time I kept glancing up at the TV, I was like, dang, how much more time does he need to be able to throw the ball? Like, good Lord, he had so much time to make plays, and he made them. And I think that's what stands out about Jalen Hurts' performance is that, sure, he didn't throw for 300 some odd yards. He didn't, but he made the plays he needed to make, and he was accurate. And he stepped in a way where if they shut down Saquon Barkley, he was able to do what he needed to do on his feet. I hear you on the Josh Sweat. I did read some rumblings about him. He should have won the MVP trophy, but you got to get those points on the board. And I feel like what Hurts was able to do in the way that he dispelled that, what we were just talking about, that when you have Saquon Barkley, you don't have to do as much. He sort of dispelled that and said, no, they take away Saquon Barkley. Look what I can do. And I don't have to do a whole bunch. That's how accurate I've been. I think he had, outside of the Devontae Smith 46-yard touchdown, he had 4 other players with the longest throw, 20 yards, right? And I think Mahomes only had 1 that was over 20 yards. So he definitely did his thing, and I think he earned that MVP award.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought the Chiefs defense played well in that first half. I mean, they gave up 10 points, and it was a 17 nothing at the half, but I mean, that was a pick 6 by Mahomes. So Mahomes gave up that other 7 points. So I think you can evaluate the defense on Kansas City and say, okay, they did a great job. They contained Saquon Barkley. They're doing what most teams should do against that offense and against Saquon. Jalen Hurts, people kept saying, oh, we're trying to figure out whether he could do it or not. Well, he showed you that he can, beat you with his arm and with his legs, for that matter, too. He can scramble and get out of trouble if he has to do so. But yeah, congrats to the Eagles. I know that's hard for you to say as a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan, but they had the best trenches in football on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line. And, and I've said this on other shows, and, me and Maestro alluded to it last week the Eagles, I can appreciate the Eagles because they don't get away from who they are. Tush push. If it's, third and short, fourth and short.
Push.
Right. First and goal at the goal line. They're not running anything other than that tush push, and you're going to have to find a way to stop it. So they just, they run what they run. They stick to who they are. They don't try to be nobody else. I can appreciate that about the Eagles.
I would say too, though, I think it was like 24-0 at the half. And I kept thinking, I remember I looked up and I was like, "Oh, this is really bad." But I wasn't concerned yet because I was like, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to turn it on second half. This is going to be a close game." I just kept waiting for Mahomes to switch. And it just never switched because he never had time to switch. I mean, every time the ball was high, he was running for his life. Like he never got comfortable. And that's a credit to the Eagles defense and what they were able to do and Vic Fangio's strategy and his scheme.
The pressure.
He never got. Yeah. And that's how you beat the Chiefs. Make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable all game long. And they never took their foot off the pedal. They never took their foot off of the Chiefs' necks. And, kudos to them. I can say what I would say about the Eagles that I have been, I've admired over the last few years is I think Howie Roseman runs circles around many of the owners in the NFL and especially Jerry Jones. The way that he's able to restack and refuel this team and see a gap and fill it with no questions asked and leaving people with not a lot to criticize, right? Very few over the years have we seen the Eagles make some kind of move, trade, free agency, whatnot, and everyone was like, "Oh, what is he doing? That's crazy." No, they're sound decisions, and I feel like he has far exceeded what it means to be a general manager in the NFL.
Yeah. He's the best in the business right now. Howie Roseman is. He's definitely, you got to put him up there as number one GM in the league for sure. I wish the Ravens can get out of their own heads and figure out how to pay more attention to offensive line and defensive line because the Ravens love themselves some corners. I mean, that's for sure. And I get it's a passing league and you got to stop the pass, but I mean, evidence. We saw evidence 2 nights ago. If you got a great offensive line and a great defensive line, you can win championships that way. It's one of those positions that goes unnoticed in football because the quarterback gets all the attention. Offenses in general get so much attention that we forget. Offensive line, defensive line is where those games is win and loss. It's the line of scrimmage where you win and lose those games for sure.
I think it was Al Davis that said that years ago. He goes, "That's how you build a championship team. They're built along the lines, in the trenches." And it's unfortunate that you spoke to your Baltimore Ravens, but Jerry Jones, you said that they need to do this, this, and this, right? You listed your things. I only have one thing. Jerry Jones needs to retire. Like, you're 82 years old, bro. Just put it down. That just needs to happen. And it's not going to happen because he's one of those dudes that's just like holding on to the Cowboys. You have to literally pry it out of his cold, dead hands. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And there's like this delusion that's going on within the organization. And even with Micah Parsons, there was that game after the Eagles beat the Cowboys the second time in the season. Season, it was a blowout, and he was like, "Oh, the game was actually closer than what the score says." No, bro, like,
Jerry being Jerry,
right? And now there's these reports that they're talking about trading Micah. It's like, this is just the worst time to be not just a Dallas fan, but definitely a Cowboys fan. This whole era just sucks.
Rumor has it, Micah wants to get traded to the Ravens. That's the rumor.
Gone, just go. I just rip the Band-Aid because there's been all these whatnot. He's always talking in his podcast, and I'm like, just go. Just like
you tired? You tired of him already? You tired of him?
I'm tired. I'm tired. You understand? Because it's like if we're gonna have Jerry Jones, and that's never gonna change. We're gonna have Dak, that's not gonna change. Then something got to change. Something has to shift within this atmosphere. as the Dallas Cowboys organization. So if he wants to go, he keeps making these rumblings. You're doing all these podcasts with all these other teams and, dropping little hints and notes, but then say, oh, I want to be a Cowboy for the rest of my life. Like something's not lining up. And so I feel like if they let him go, I won't be heartbroken. Just go. Like, I feel like he's soured the way that I look at him. And like, I don't know. I just don't like the way he carried himself this season off the field. And for a team that struggled the way that they did, I'd rather our players be quiet.
Y'all had some injuries. Y'all had.
But we suck. Okay, even with the injuries. So just be quiet. Just. I don't know. Like, I kept wondering, like, why do after every Sunday, right? Go on Twitter, Micah's on the podcast talking about something. No, just be quiet. There are times what the Lord's word say. There's times to talk, and there's times to be quiet. And this is the time as the Dallas Cowboys to be quiet, because who knows what Jerry Jones is doing in that front office and the decisions that he's going to make when it comes to this free agency, when it comes to this draft. Who knows what he's going to be able to do? He has not been successful, right, in years. And then you see the Philadelphia Eagles come into their third Super Bowl in 9 or 7 years?
8 years. 8 years. Yep.
8 years.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
it's frustrating.
I get it. I get it.
Let go of Luka. The Cowboys can let go of Micah, and I'll be all right with that.
You know what that situation reminds me of? I think this is a good example, and I imagine you're not at this part of life yet. I know I'm not, but it's like you have that parent that's aging, and they get to a point to where you got power of attorney documents over them. You're making decisions for them because they're no longer incapable of making decisions, and you got to be the one to be like, hey, like. We not doing that. Like, this decision you making, these, you bringing this guy in and you bringing that guy in. No, we not doing that. Like, who is that for Jerry? Who is that? Is it Steven?
It's not his son, because then you got to ask yourself the question. There is a delusion that is just all over this organization, right? And at what point does the delusion stop? Like, where does it stop? Who Will Clay, the player personnel guy, does it stop with him? Like, where does it stop? And I think that's the issue, because I think just getting rid of Jerry would alleviate a lot. Jerry stepping down, I should say, would alleviate a lot. But the delusion, I don't know where it stops. And that's actually pretty scary, because how much like Jerry is Stephen Jones when they kept Mike McCarthy after that blowout loss to Green Bay last year. To me, that would have been a time to let go of Mike McCarthy. And then they kind of play with him.
Yeah, I can see it, because you made him a lame duck coach essentially with playing him, 1 year on the contract left. Most teams give their coaches extensions when there's 1 year left. They don't, leave them out to dry like that. I'm of the opinion you're going to bring Brian Schottenheimer, and I forgot Schottenheimer even existed. I didn't even know he was on the staff.
Me too.
To be quite honest with you. Right. I didn't even know dude was on the staff. So it's like, y'all could have kept McCarthy if this is the route that you're going to go. Like, if this is the puppet that that you're like, this is a step down from puppetry, like from one puppet to, a lesser puppet. At least that puppet has a Super Bowl ring attached to his name, but you gonna let that guy go for a lesser pup? Like, I don't.
Yeah,
that's
he
what
let that guy go. Couple of things when you look at that whole how that all played out. One, Mike McCarthy, he finally lets him go. He leaves, but he didn't get a job. Mike McCarthy ain't got no job. So is he? I don't know. I think that says something. That he didn't get scooped up right away. He had a couple of interviews, but
internet again. There
Yeah.
goes my internet. I'm sorry, folks.
Okay,
For
so
folks
go
who are
back to
watching.
what we said about McCarthy.
I was saying I think McCarthy, I think he decided he's not going to coach this year. I think he made that decision on his own. I think he could have got the Bears job. Look, the Saints just finally got their guy. And speaking of which, why didn't y'all bring Kellen Moore as head coach? Because why didn't y'all wait for him?
I can tell you exactly why. Okay, so Jerry Jones is all about loyalty, right? Loyalty above everything else. That is Jerry Jones. That's why he let go of Super Bowl winning Jimmy Johnson, because they had some issues with loyalty. Okay, so he lets go of Kellen Moore. I'll tell you why, or didn't hire him. Why? Because Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Kellen Moore could have ascended had he stayed. He could have ascended to become the Dallas Cowboys head coach. No, he leaves. But where did he leave to go to? He left to the arch rival Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, so now he comes back. I don't even understand why they even interviewed him, because they know what Jerry Jones was thinking. He comes back, they interview him. You know why they didn't hire him? Because he wasn't loyal. He wasn't loyal. And then he went to our rival. That's what Jerry Jones thinking. Jerry Jones ain't thinking about the X's and O's and what Kellen Moore can do with this offense and with this team and make them a Super Bowl.
He went to the rival? Is that what you're telling me?
Kellen Moore was not loyal to Jerry Jones. Not only did he leave, he left to a rival that went on to win the Super Bowl. Jerry Jones not happy with that. That's why they didn't hire Kellen Moore.
So what if he went to the Browns?
You telling me Kellen Moore was a lesser candidate than Schottenheimer? Absolutely not.
No, not. I look, if they would have hired Kellen Moore, I'd have been like, okay, he was there before. He ran the offense. It makes perfect sense. But what you're telling me is he mad because he got himself a bag and a championship with the rival, with the enemy. Man, look,
it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Because then you got a question. The coach that won you 2 Super Bowls back in the 90s, why'd you let him go? Does that even make sense? Why'd you let him go? It's personal. It's loyalty. It has nothing to do with winning. Jerry Jones don't care about winning. Jerry Jones cares about loyalty, and he loves the fact that even I just got an email at work. He cares about that money. He cares about how popular the team is. The Dallas Cowboys, the ranking just came out like last week that the Dallas Cowboys were the most searched team still. They didn't make still in the NFL. That's what Jerry Jones cares about. I gave up on thinking that Jerry Jones was trying to build a team he wants them to win enough, right? He don't want to be 0-16.
That man a marketing genius
to get fans in the seats. But he doesn't make the business decisions to build a Super Bowl contending team. He doesn't care about Super Bowls. He already got 5. And he knows how hard it is to get a Super Bowl, right? Eagles just now getting 2. They've been around. Were they around longer than the Cowboys? So he's not thinking about any of that. His focus is on money, marketing, keeping the Dallas Cowboys as the most valuable sports franchise in all of sports. That's what he cares about. Because if he cared about anything else, actual winning, he would have built a roster that would have made a lot more sense. He would have made a better decision when it came to Dak years ago, not just this second round of contract negotiations. The first one back in 2018, he wouldn't have allowed CeeDee Lamb to sit out of training camp. Like, a lot of his decisions are very indicative of someone who's not prioritizing actually winning a Super Bowl.
Yo, he
the Cowboys, and I'm like,
he's a marketing genius. I tell you what, because the way he daunted out there the Dion news about possibly, coming to coach the team, the way that all that was manufactured, and smart people like us, right? Smart people like us knew it was no way in hell Primetime was coaching that particular team. I don't care about their history, him helping to win a championship, and I don't care about all that. Primetime is primetime. And Jerry wouldn't.
You know how desperate I was as a Cowboys fan? I was like, hire Deion Sanders.
You fell for it.
get Shador and trade everybody. Like, get rid of Dak, get rid of everybody. Whatever you got to do,
fell for it.
trade up in the draft to get Shador and have Dion do it. I mean, that's how desperate I've been as a fan.
Ooh, you had the wool pulled over your eyes. Oh my
Not
God.
wool. It's just like, just do it. Just trade everybody and just do it. Anything to end this pain. Anything to end this pain.
Wow. Yeah, the Cowboys, they definitely took an L. They took an L
We've been
on
taking
Sunday.
20, 30 years.
Yeah, they have. You know who else took an L on Sunday? And I don't know who took a worse L.
Oh, the Giants?
The Giants did. The Giants definitely took an L watching the running back that they decided to not bring back win a Super Bowl. They definitely took an L. The Chiefs took a L as well. Drake took an L as well. Drake took a huge L. I got to tell you, and I want to know how you feel about the halftime performance by one of the greats, Kendrick Lamar. I'm not going to pretend I'm a huge Kendrick fan. I do like some of his music. I also love the way that this performance was choreographed. I love the messages. I love the subliminals that were thrown out there. I love that SZA was on stage. I love the fact that Serena Williams, and I don't know if you've seen this, but Serena Williams posted on IG how, I guess, it was discussed that she would come on and, go on stage. And, she kind of had to soften it up and say, hey, well, it's Compton, Kendrick's from Compton. I'm from Compton. I was asked to, be in a Super Bowl. And it's like, hold on, this is a Super Bowl. When am I ever going to get a chance to dance in the Super Bowl? Of course I'm going to take it. I'm not buying that for 1 second. That was your time to get back at your ex because Kendrick is getting back at him. This was your moment. I'm not buying that whole, politically correct talk for 1 second. She knew what she was doing. Everybody that was involved with putting that together knew what they were doing. And like I said, the message that I love that he illustrated with the black dancers to create the American flag. I thought that was a way to say black people, built this country, built America. I love the way that was, put together and the messages sent, all while the president was in the building. Your thoughts?
I co-signed all of that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had to watch it while I was working, but I'm in the station, and there was a group of us producers and whatnot and anchors, and we're watching. And I was just hopping and bopping, like, yeah. And then I saw Serena. It was like, Serena. I mean, I lost it. Serena Williams is my all-time favorite athlete ever. Love Serena down.
Okay.
I played.
Yeah, she to go for sure.
Tennis was my sport growing up. Love tennis. Love Serena. Love her down. And so to see her do that, and sorry, my table's moving. And to see her do that, it was a redemption in so many levels, right? So it wasn't just her getting back at Drake, but also she did that dance at the Olympics in 2012 and got criticized for it, and now to be able to be celebrated for it was a beautiful thing. I love performances that have a lot going on when it comes to symbolism, messages. What my favorite part of it is the day after or the night after, going online and kind of reading the things that I missed, or some of the symbolism that was there that you probably didn't understand. When someone comes on and explain it, that's art. That's real art. And what Kendrick Lamar put up in the Super Bowl was art. I thought it was beautiful. I didn't know all of his songs. I'm not a big secular hip hop person. I'm more Christian rap, but but I love the consciousness in his music. I love the social consciousness in his music. I think it's great, and I think that was the right place for it. And like you said, in front of President Trump was just the cherry on top. But I've been debating with a couple of my friends about the whole Drake thing, who are like diehard Drake fans, and they can't accept the L. Like they just trashing the shit, not, and like, and the thing about Serena, it's not that she was getting back at her ex. You don't get back at somebody that started it, right? He started it. He mentioned her in a song. He kept coming after her husband, Alexis Ohanian. Like, he kept picking at her.
Right.
This was married, moved on her life, got kids, she's happy, and he started it, right? And so it was just fitting, right? I'm gonna come up on her in the Super Bowl. The best tennis player we've ever seen ever played a game at the Super Bowl. Yeah, and she's from Compton, and she's gonna represent her culture, the real culture that you try to fake, as Kendrick Lamar has said repeatedly. So I thought it was beautiful. And I think also my favorite part about his performance was coming home that night and going on TikTok. And I loved watching people's reactions. And it wasn't just us. It wasn't just Black and brown people. It was people from various backgrounds and cultures who loved, right, when he was like, say Drake, and smiled. Like, the little things that he was doing and what he did with this performance impacted a lot of people. Sure, there was the people that hated it and whatever and can't stand hip hop and all the things. Sure, there's that sector of people that will always be there. But there are a lot of people, like I was seeing videos of like old white people who were just like, okay, so what does he mean by that? What is, and I thought it was a great representation of hip hop and social movement work, activism, anti-establishment. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones. It's definitely, and yes, I've seen a lot of criticism of the performance, but if you're not of the culture or aware of what the culture is about, then the performance just wasn't for you. I mean, I think I could put it as simply as just that. But if you appreciate art and the creativity, then you would appreciate that performance. It's not your typical, of course, it's not your typical Beyonce. And look, it's hard for rappers to even choreograph their own, performances. There's not a lot of rappers that can do that with what Kendrick did. I mean, Missy might be the example, and, Maestro might be upset at me for this take, but Missy might be the one example where you could say not only can she be creative with her performances, but she can choreograph her performances as well. So it's hard for rappers to do that, and the fact that he was able to do that all while being creative, setting the message, sending the subliminals, and teasing Not Like Us. I love how he teased it the first several times. And my daughter, you should see my daughter. She, that's her favorite song. All she's there in front of the TV is to wait for Not Like Us. And they kept teasing it, and she just got mad. She just was like, yo, when are they going to play the song? It's like, look, trust me. They're going to play it. There's some things going on there. They're teasing it for the public and for, consumption. But they don't worry. They're going to play it. And she eventually, got her wish. She got her wish for sure. But overall,
the most watched halftime, right? It was the most watched. First of all, it was the most watched Super Bowl and the most watched halftime show. He eclipsed Michael Jackson. I mean, I think that says a lot, especially for an artist that isn't like, a traditional mega star, that like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, like that.
Is that confirmed? Are those numbers confirmed? Because people are.
I can go back and look, but from what I saw earlier today, Rock Nation, who produces the show.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of people, there's some Rock Nation haters out there that will, dispute, hey, because I saw something on Twitter earlier, and somebody searched the tweet from last year's Usher's performance, and Rock Nation was saying the same thing, like, yeah, it's the most watched one. We beat it by this much. But then they come out this year, and I guess the number's less, but then they're still putting that message out there that, hey, 1.33, yeah. So the tweet I saw from the Usher one was that it was 203 million. So I don't know if that's, I don't know if it's AI. I don't know if
halftime show, most watched halftime show ever, and up 3% versus last year. Usher was last year, right?
Usher was last year, yeah.
I'm just saying, and this was This was a combined post with the NFL, with Apple Music. I mean, you know.
Okay. Look, I ain't mad. Look, I know. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Rock Nation. I know they have their reasons for that. I'm not gonna get into it, but good for them. Look, look, Jay-Z, salute to Jay-Z for putting together a great decision for having Kendrick Lamar perform. I can't wait to see who they choose next year. And you already seeing complaints about, oh, can we get some country music back at the halftime show? Can we get this? Look, hip hop is the hottest thing right now, regardless of whether you're a 42-year-old like myself or you're a 25-year-old. Hip hop is the thing that's popping right now, and you're gonna put hip hop artists out there right now. That's what's generating these streams and the views and the attention and the ratings. That's what generates it. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you feel like there's any credence to this claim that Kendrick Lamar and the industry and whatnot is trying to take down Drake? I keep hearing this.
No, I don't think so. I do not think if you're Drake that you go and sue the label and carry out a lawsuit. I don't think you do that. I think you just go out there and you go in the studio and clap back. Like what? I mean,
it's game over. Game over. Remember?
No, it's definitely game over. I'm just saying at the time he put the lawsuit out there, it's like, bro, why don't you just go back in the studio and try to clap back or do something? But don't take your lawyers out and try to showcase them. Like, nah, like we don't do that. Like, look, I grew up on 90s, hip hop. Like all the beefs that we had back in the 90s, wasn't no niggas, getting their lawyers and stuff like that. So nah, he's handling it all wrong. I don't think the industry's after Drake.
Next chapter, like what? Okay, so let's say Kendrick Lamar closed this chapter. Game over. He said, "Game over. It's closed." Got to go through these legal proceedings. But as far as Drake as an artist and his music, like, what's the next? Is he going to throw out a summer banger? This something like how is he going to be received? What's the next level of Drake?
Ooh, that's a good question. He definitely got to lay low for a little bit. In my opinion, I think he's got to lay low. I think I'm not even sure this is the summer you do it. I mean, we're 4 months away from summer. That might be too quick coming off of this.
You got to pop out and show and then just do it.
Maybe I don't know. Summer 2026. I'll give a timeline of summer 2026. Yeah, this is where he makes
a whole other year.
I think he needs to stay in Canada. Try to re-up, try to gather yourself. Figure it out, man. Figure it out. I don't know. Look, because there's a lot of artists that I think can rock the Super Bowl halftime show. I think Drake is one of those guys that can do that. I think Chris Brown is another guy that can do it, but I have a feeling that there's some higher ups that feel a certain way about Chris Brown that he may not get that opportunity, but he definitely has a catalog to do it. Drake has more than the catalog to rock a Super Bowl halftime show.
But how much of a dent to his legacy, if you will, has this had? I mean, will we ever see the same after this?
Probably not. No. It's definitely on his, like, when you think about his legacy, this is definitely something that will get talked about for sure. But look, a lot of there's rappers that have taken L's, like, well, maybe not to this magnitude, but there's rappers that have taken L's when it comes to rap beef. Look, J. Cole was a smart one. He was like, look, I'm gonna sit this one out. It was never intended for me to, have this back and forth. I'm just gonna go do my thing. I'm gonna just go enjoy my ownership stake of the Hornets and just go do my thing, right? So he kind of, avoided all of this, what's happening to Drake right now. Yeah, it's when you talk about legacy, he's gonna be he's gonna be talked about in that light. I don't know that he can recover from it, to be honest.
One of the things that I think that has had a lasting impact on me when I think about this whole Drake Kendrick Lamar is when I mentioned before, I kind of went on TikTok after the game to just see everyone's reactions. I thought they were so great, but the ones that impact me the most, and maybe not from the Super Bowl, but just when the song popped out this summer,
right?
Kids. Like I saw a video of like a kid's school party, and I'm talking about little kids. When it got to the A minor part, I mean, the kids are going crazy. I was like, oh man, a whole generation of children are gonna grow up hating.
Look, kids bop. So you know Kids Bop?
Yes.
On the radio. So there is a version of Not Like Us on Kids Bop. That's how big this record has become. That's the outreach that it's got. So yeah, to your point about the kids doing it, it's circulated itself throughout. It's crazy. It's crazy. I did want to mention this, before we close, since we were kind of talking music and stuff. I did want to pay homage to Irv Gotti. I don't know how much of a fan you were in regards to Murder Inc. and the early 2000s and Ja Rule and Ashanti. He passed away last week. I guess he had some complications from a stroke. He's had some interviews over the last couple of years. Took some criticism for some of the things he said in regard to come on, internet. Okay, there we go. I hated it cut into the middle of that, but the bottom line I wanted to get to.
Sorry, we lost you saying that the press conferences or the interviews that he had that were problematic.
Right. So, but I don't want to leave that kind of as his legacy because growing up in New York, my high school years from 97 to 01, he produced some of the greatest, songs out there. He helped Jay-Z, come up. He helped DMX come up. There's a hip hop documentary where it talked about the downfall of Def Jam as a label. And there's a lot of faces to that Def Jam renaissance. You can name DMX, Jay-Z, Kevin Lyles, Lear Cohen, but Irv Gotti has to be a face of that because of the guys that he helped get those distribution deals with Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? So, and then obviously Ja Rule with his success, Ashanti with her success, and the Murder Inc. label, as a whole. And what that did, I mean, they had a nice run, in the early 2000s. They had a nice run, and I'm trying to think too, because when you watch a music video now, you view it differently because you see faces that you didn't recognize when you were a kid, and he's been in a lot of like early 90s, mid 90s music videos where it's like, oh yeah, there's Irv right there. Okay, so he's been in and out of the business, of music, for some time now, working behind the scenes, A&R, DJ. He was DJ Irv in Queens, for a while there, before he became Irv Gotti as the CEO of the record label. I think the other thing you want to throw in there is his relationship with Supreme. For people that don't know who Supreme is, he was a notorious drug kingpin in Queens. There's a documentary about that as well. He actually offered Supreme the president position of Murder Inc. and Supreme turned it down just to stay, in the drug game. So there's a lot there, but I wanted to pay homage to Irv Gotti, rest in peace, condolences to the families, and people were praying for the families for sure. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the post about his passing, and I honestly thought that was fake. So I had to go through just to make sure it was real, because that's the kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, they
it
had to
was
confirm some stuff too. Like it was still they were still trying to confirm it. Yep.
Yeah, I think what struck me the most, I didn't know much about Irv Gotti like as a person, but I think what struck me the most is just how young he was. I think it was 57?
Yeah, 54. 54.
Oh gosh, even younger. So that
probably too young, way too young.
Tragic part of it, because even you mentioned like the problematic interviews and the things that he said about Ashanti and all that in more recent years. Someone who's 54 years old, they still have a lot more time to grow and change and become a better person and kind of reinvent themselves. And it's unfortunate that his life was taken away at such a young age. I don't know. I have to admit, I don't know much about him. Of course, I listened to the 90s hip hop music, but I was more struck about how young he was when he was taken away.
Yeah, for sure. When you think about the history of hip hop, I think his name has to come up in terms of what he did for guys like, and I said it, I'll say it again. He did help bring Jay-Z up into the game. He helped DMX. He helped Def Jam revitalize itself as a label. And then obviously with being a producer of all the Ja Rule albums, the Ashanti albums and things like that. So
again, I wonder, doesn't it seem kind of quiet?
What's that?
Like, you're mentioning all these names of all these people, all these careers that he's had such a huge hand in helping establish, but because was it Super Bowl night? I feel like it was really close to the Super Bowl that the news dropped, right?
It wasn't on Super Bowl Sunday. It may have been maybe several days before that, maybe Thursday, Friday-ish, something like that.
You kind of gave me this whole, lineup of people, and I'm just it just seems a little quiet, no? Like as far as
it's quiet. It's definitely quiet, and I want to add this too, because I did see Fat Joe post about Irv also. Fat Joe's career, if you remember that song What's Love with Ashanti, that was the turning point in Fat Joe's career. Fat Joe was more of a digging in the crates, more underground hip hop, early 90s. And then even, when Big Pun was out, Fat Joe was his guy. Fat Joe was still making music. But that song, What's Love, which was produced by Irv Gotti, that took Fat Joe up a few notches when it came to, hit songs and, being more mainstream. I think that's the right word. Fat Joe became more mainstream once that. So I can respect Fat Joe for at least acknowledging that Irv had a hand in him, being more mainstream, and it kind of changed his rap career at that point. As far as it being quiet, I can honestly say, and look, I don't know Irv Gotti personally, but based on the stuff that I see on social media, based on the relationships that have been documented over the years with fellow rappers and labels, there was the G Unit beef with 50 and Murder Inc. There was that. They also went back and forth with Eminem. There was Busta Rhymes. There's people in the industry that have had somewhat of a dislike for him. So if you want to point to something of the reason why maybe it's a little quiet, it could be that maybe he did rub some people the wrong way in the industry, and maybe there's just nothing to say. I mean, my mama taught me, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of where I was getting to it, because I don't, like I said, I don't know. Obviously you're well versed in this. I don't know much, but I just the sense I got was that there was something underneath, like the silence I felt, and how he's received maybe in these more recent years. Maybe it is this recency bias of how the things that he said in more recent interviews, especially regarding Ashanti. And so I maybe that was part of the silence, but you kind of dived into some other things there that I didn't consider.
It's partly it. I think that's partly it. I think it's a combination of things. It's what he said in interviews recently over the past couple of years. It's, people in the industry that have had their, back and forths with, and, I don't want to leave this out too. I do respect Irv in this sense. That court case where the feds were going after the label, and Irv was going to court for they were trying to get him because they thought that he was trying to help Supreme get out of prison. That's my there's a story out there about that. I think, in my opinion, I think that's the reason why they were trying to get him. They wanted him to snitch on Supreme. Irv was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking no deal. I'm not taking no pleas. Let's ride this thing out. And he rode it out to the end, and he won. At the end of the day, Irv won the case, and it damaged the label a little bit. It definitely, from a financial standpoint and an image standpoint, it definitely put a stain on it. But the fact that he stuck to his guns and rode that thing out and won at the end, I can respect him for that. I can honestly say that.
And if I remember the documentary correctly, that's when Ashanti said she kind of broke away, right? Was because
yes,
all that legal drama, she didn't want to be a part of it, and that's when she broke away. Yeah.
There's 3 documentaries that kind of tell his story a bit. There's the Supreme documentary that came on, I want to say Showtime, a couple of years ago. There's the Hip Hop Revolution documentary, which is on Netflix, that kind of tells the Def Jam story and how he came in and helped change all that. And then the Murder Inc. documentary, which is the one where I think you're referencing, where, he talks about the relationships and stuff like that. So yeah. But
really unfortunate, especially, so young. That's really unfortunate for him.
Still, it's unfortunate. I think if we're just talking generally as far as health is concerned, it's definitely an eye opener for somebody like myself who is 42, and thank God I haven't had much of any health issues, but we still got to continue to watch what we put in our bodies and stuff and things like that. So it's definitely an eye opener. I hate the fact that we're losing people that are in the 50s, and I don't know if it has a lot to do and I'm sorry if I cut out there. You might have missed what I was saying, but the bottom line is that I think we need to watch what we put in our bodies, moving forward as we continue to age gracefully. By the way, because look, I feel good, I look good, I plan to maintain it that way as the numbers keep going up.
Yeah, we need to normalize going to the doctor and getting your annual physicals and knowing what's going on with your health, especially in the Black male community. We need to normalize that.
Yeah, for sure. Chrystal, this was fun. I'm glad we got to have this conversation. Sports, music toward the end, and all that good stuff. This was dope. Before we close out, just let everybody know where they can find you at on social media, and then just kind of talk about some of the things you got coming up.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I thought you were going to say, before we close out, let's just say a word of prayer. I said, just the conversation we're having felt so spiritual. I was like, yes, Lord, let's pray.
Well, you said you like gospel rap, so I could kind of understand that. I can understand that.
Where you can find me, my socials are all the same. It's Chrystal Stone _ Had to think about that for a second. Chrystal, spelled with an H. So Chrystal Stone _ on all the platforms. And yeah, I'm about coming up soon, maybe like a year and a half into my job here as a sports anchor and reporter in Albany, New York. And so if you're interested, WNYT.com/sports to see stories that I'm doing and things I have going on here. But that's where things are. This is where my focus is right now, here in the capital region.
All right, that's what's up, folks. And I appreciate everybody that's been in our Instagram chat room. Maestro, I see you. CJ Harden, Love Cuts Barbershop, Barber Inc. 94. Appreciate everybody in these chats this evening. Continue to follow us, folks. We got the Facebook page, so make sure you click that like button. Also, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're on Twitch as well. Hit us up on Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Also, hit us up on Twitter at Barbershop SPOR2. And if you got questions or comments about the show, hit us up on the email at barbershopsportstalk1@gmail.com. And so myself, I'm Trey Frazier, and our special guest co-host for the evening, Chrystal Stone. Thank you so much again. Love, peace, and happiness to everybody out there. And Chrystal, I always like to close the show out this way. Mind your damn business and drink some water.
Oh yeah, we got him. Trey Frazier and Maestro Styles, we got one. Right back like we left some. We don't duck smoke, we want all of it. So line them up, Trey shot with the blade, we sizing it up. I'm quick to catch the fade, Styles making the cut. Cause we coming out clean every time that we showing up.
It's gonna be called The Barbershop.